The following was made possible through the generous support of Lon Airlines.
So what am I gonna...
State your name.
Jamie Horton?
Are you a historian?
No.
Did you go to the Falklands?
Nope.
What were you doing while Hit and Run History was in the Falklands?
I was doing some government television work up here on Cape.
Okay, you can go.
But we did go to some places closer by that are connected to our story.
How so?
I went to New York to meet Josh. You all know who Josh is, right?
Josh, what was going on with Robert Haswell on board the Columbia?
Small vessels can get very contentious, especially if people get a little bored and they don't have enough to do. It could be that Haswell, you know, the old loyalist, has a hierarchical view of society, and he believes that ordinary sailors should be showing more respect to his, what he would call social superiors. He's a young guy, he's only 19, he's probably not very good at all this command stuff, and maybe he's not especially experienced, and maybe the seamen are sassing him a bit, because they can recognize that he is not an experienced old salt like themselves. He's a punk kid. And there's a lot of violence on these ships. People are bored, they're very closely confined, people get on your nerves, add a little rum, you know, and mischief is afoot pretty quick.
It seems that Kendrick readily believes Ingraham's account that, or whatever, he blows up and goes off on Haswell.
Well, I still see Haswell as the 19-year-old punk. Captain has no patience for this. Maybe he's got no patience for his politics too, or maybe his pretensions to class. There are all sorts of reasons, or maybe, you know, Kendrick wasn't feeling well, or you know, there are a million reasons why this sort of stuff can happen.
He threatens Haswell's life and says if he sees him up on his quarterdeck again, he'll blast his brains out.
He must have been a man of a fairly hasty temper, even by contemporary standards. That's pretty abusive. But usually you'd expect the master and one of his mates to be a little more civil to each other and not threaten to kill one another. But it certainly happens from time to time.
Well, this is Haswell's account of what happened as well. He's the only one who's written the history, and so he's able to cast it the way he would want to, although it wouldn't necessarily diverge wildly from the truth.
Well, but it might, you know. I mean, 19-year-olds have a tremendous sense of vanity. It's that their experience somehow is novel and important. He's becoming the hero of his own story, so of course he's being persecuted. I mean, you do have to treat journals with a certain amount of suspicion.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. You can...
Oh, no. Then we went to go shoot things.
What?
We went to shoot things. Andy thought it was important, so we went to Fort Devens.
My name's Jim Hollister. I'm a park ranger at Minuteman National Historical Park.
Jim, tell me about what you got there.
What I have here is a replica of an 18th century flintlock pistol. It fires when a piece of flint is struck against a piece of steel, creating the sparks which ignite powder in a flash pan. That's the little dish right there. And when that explodes, it sends flames through a little hole called a touch hole into the chamber. That ignites your main charge, and that sends out the ball. These pistols are designed for short range, big impact. This particular one is about 69 caliber. However, in terms of range, these are personal defense weapons. You're not going to be firing at targets much more than 20 feet away. But at close range, such as on board ship, it's hit or miss, but if you do hit, they're in a lot of trouble.
On board the quarterdeck of the Columbia, Captain John Kendrick had gotten into quite a tussle with one of the junior officers, and he said if he ever saw him up on his quarterdeck again, he was going to blast his brains out. And Kendrick, who had been a privateer during the Revolutionary War, would have assembled some collection of weapons from all over really. And so this is something similar to what he would have been threatening Haswell with.
I don't know if he'd have this exact pistol, but in terms of the technology, the capability of the weapon, something very similar.
Okay, and 69 caliber is, well, what's that, like 3 times the size of a .22?
Yes.
That's about the size of this dime.
We're going to see what sort of damage it might have done to young Haswell.
All right.
We brought a cantaloupe.
What do you think?
He's dead.
That's a pineapple.
Ready? Ready. Yes! There. Exit 1.
And the watermelon.
Yes! It's smoking. It's still smoking. And there's the exit one. Pineapple doesn't look too good. I think the watermelon was most impressive. And I would say that if you're going to be a sailor on board the Columbia, the best thing to be is a cantaloupe. Yes! Thank you very much for this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The opportunity, and so now we can show exactly what would have happened to young Robert Haswell if he had gone up on the quarterdeck.
I mostly came for the guns, but Andy came for the food.
Alas, poor Haswell. Not bad. For a dead sailor.